Hey, it's Vicky. Remember me? I know, it's been a minute since I've posted a video, and for that I sincerely apologize. I don't really have a good excuse for it other than it's been a very busy summer, and I felt like when I was trying to sit down at the end of June to film my wrap-up, or I'm sorry, my TBR for July, I just was like, I don't feel like filming. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna let this ride, because I think I was just in a bit of a filming slump, a bit of a content booktube slump, because I didn't feel like talking about books. I wasn't really taking in any booktube content. I just was like in a slump. I was reading, but I just didn't feel like filming or watching booktube, and I didn't want to force it because I felt like that would be disingenuous to you all. And so I was like, I'm just not gonna film, and when I feel like filming again, I will. So here I am, I'm alive, I'm okay, life is good. Like I said, I was just feeling a little bit stagnant with my content. And that's not to say that I'm gonna come back and now everything is gonna be, I'm gonna have all this new, awesome, great, different, creative content, because I'm not. But I feel like those of you that are here, you're here for the kind of stuff I do, and I'm gonna keep doing it. And if I get any sort of new creative ideas, I will do those. But for now, I'm gonna stick to the old tried and true videos that I do, and because I have missed it. So again, I apologize for just ghosting you guys for the past almost 2 months, and I hopefully won't do it again. So it's just funny because you would have thought that last year this time was when this would have happened, because life last year at this time was just bonkers, crazy, lots of stuff going on, and I still managed to film pretty consistently. And then here we are a year later, and other than, you know, work and just like summer, you know, summer vacations and, you know, trying to do the fun summer things and work and stuff, that's it. It's, you know, it just, I hit a wall, I guess. So yeah, but here I am, I'm back. And I want to come back and first start off by talking about what I've read lately. I'm gonna try my best though to be very kind of rapid fire with these reviews, because I don't want this video to be forever long, and I've already been filming for a few minutes, so I don't want to keep you guys for too long. But I do want to tell you what I've been up to reading wise, and that way hopefully we can kind of get back on you know, our normal schedule. So I gotta go all the way back to June. This is weird. Okay, so let's talk about what I read in June and July, shall we? I'm also extremely lazy, and I didn't feel like going and grabbing all the books, so I'm just gonna put the pictures up as I talk about them, because that seemed easier right now. So the first book I read in June was a reread. I reread Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, and I read this book for the first time in middle school. My teacher in 6th grade, one of them, she read the book out loud to us, and yeah, I haven't read it since. But Leia was supposed to do this fun little summer book club where they were supposed to read Tuck Everlasting, and that's why I wanted to reread it. And so I did, I reread it, and then like 2 days before she was supposed to like start the book club, they canceled it because nobody else signed up. So, but I had already reread it. And so yeah, Tuck Everlasting, upon a reread, I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. I think the writing was good. I thought that the themes were really interesting. Like, I could definitely see why this was picked to be a book club book, because it has really just a really good topic to kind of talk about with other people. And it seemed like it was paced well. It was pretty short, under 200 pages. But I also wish that it had a little more. I wish there was a little more meat to it. And then there was kind of an aspect to the plot that I don't want to say because it could be spoilery, that was kind of weird, that I did not pick up on at all as a child, but reading it as a 41-year-old woman with a 10-year-old daughter, it was a little weird. There's a part, a little weird. So all in all though, I think it's still a good book. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read Penance by Eliza Clark. I read this one on my Kindle, and this one was surprisingly good. I actually really, really liked this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. It basically is about, it's told as if it were a true crime novel. So it was interesting because as you're reading it, you feel like what you're reading actually happened, but it didn't. It's fiction. But it was written so well that I felt like I was really reading a true crime book. And it was basically about, the true crime in the book was that this group of girls, like a friend group, these 3 girls basically murdered one of their friends. And so the book is all about that. And I just thought that it was really, really good. Like, because the way it touched on, obviously, just society's fascination with true crime in general. Also, it had a lot to do with teenagers on the internet, which for me, I graduated high school in 2002, so that kind of stuff was just starting, but I would say by about 2012, it was like that kind of stuff was very, very prevalent. You had things like Tumblr and like all that kind of stuff. And I thought this book really, really touched on that like perfectly. What it's like to be a teenager on the internet, and all the things that you can get into, right? And it also deals with violence, bullying, especially between girls, and it was just a great book. The ending made me mad, and that's probably why I only gave it 4.5. There's just something about the ending that pissed me off, but otherwise it was very solid. I would really recommend it, whether you like true crime or not, because I'm not like a huge true crime person, but I still really enjoyed this. So give it a read if it sounds at all interesting to you. The next book that I read was The Death of Vivic Oji by Kweke Emezi, and this one was a little bit of a letdown. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It deals with the death of Vivic, the main character. At the very beginning of the book, Vivic is found dead on his front lawn, and his family is trying to figure out what happened and why, the circumstances of Vivic's death, basically. And I don't know what it was. I feel like it dragged a bit, even though it wasn't really long. I felt like it really kind of dragged. And there's a lot of POV switching, which normally is okay for me, but for some reason in this one, it felt like too much. So I definitely want to read more by this author, because especially they have a book called Pet that I've heard is really, really good. So I think I still might give that one a try. But this one was just, it was all right, so I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was one of those books that was all over the place. Oh, was it 2 years ago? 2-3 years ago, something like that. Everybody was reading this book, and I finally got around to it. And it's about these 2 friends that meet when they're fairly young, and then they sort of reconnect in college, and they design a video game, create a video game together. And so it takes you through their whole sort of career together, and all the dramas and things that come with it. And I actually really liked this. I liked that our main characters were, you know, a male and a female, and they had this platonic friendship, and also this sort of work creative relationship. And I liked that. I liked it. I really liked the video game aspect, and how they sort of designed the games, because I know nothing about that. I play video games, but I don't know anything about how they're made. So that was really interesting to me too. And yeah, overall, I liked it, so I gave it 4 stars. Then I read I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, and this is translated from French, I believe. And this one is just a little novella about our main character, who you never find out what her name is, but she is living in this sort of like bunker underground, and she's lived there pretty much her whole life, and that's all she knows, and it's all a bunch of women. And one day they get out from the bunker, they're able to leave, and she's sort of seeing the world for the first time, but it's not what you think. And that's what I kind of liked about this. I liked that this book had so much ambiguity, because you don't know why they're in this bunker, how they got there, who's in charge here, what's going on. You know nothing, because our main character knows nothing, and you're kind of just going by what she is telling you, what she knows. And I liked that. I know some people hate that. Some people don't like not finding out all the answers. In this book, you don't find out really any of the answers, but it was a really fascinating story. I will say the first 50 pages or so, I considered DNFing it, because I wasn't sure that I liked the writing. But I'm glad that I pushed through, because it ended up being a really good book, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. I listened to this one on audio, and this one was another one that I felt like everybody read but me, and so I had a little bit of FOMO going on, and I was like, I need to read this book. So I listened to the audiobook, and it basically is about a fictionalized story about Ted Bundy. Except in this one, it entirely focuses on the victims, and who were all women, and how what this person did affected them. And I liked how in the book, the killer, you never know what his name is. He is just known as the defendant. And I liked how it touched on, obviously, again, just kind of like Penance, society's obsession with true crime, and how we tend to glamorize these serial killers and things like that, and that the victims are often so disregarded. And this one too, outside of the true crime serial killer realm, I liked how it also talked about just women in general, and how women go around in society, and you know, how we have to be a certain way, how we worry about our safety and things like that, things that men don't consider that women do. I just really liked how she touched on that. So I was pleasantly surprised by this book, because the first book I read by her, I didn't like it. And so I'm glad that this one was good, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, and this one I read on my Kindle. And this book made me so mad. The main character was infuriating, because it's basically about a woman who is a writer, and one of her friends, it's her friend, but she is very jealous of her, and they're not really friends, but they are one of those kind of relationships. Her friend dies at the very beginning of the book, so this isn't a spoiler, and she basically steals her manuscript and publishes it as if it was her own. And the book so she is a total piece of shit. Yeah, she's a garbage human being, and so the whole book, you're just like, anytime she's trying to in any way try to validate what she's doing and why, you're just like, no, you need to just shut up. She's just a very frustrating character, but it also made it interesting. What I did like about it was that I hated the main character, because I think you're supposed to. That's the point. I also liked that it got into the publishing industry and like sort of the process behind getting a book published, how long it takes and all of that. I thought that was really interesting too. And it also talked a lot about social media because, you know, nowadays especially, so much of everything we do, it's very social media focused, and that it goes the same for authors and people in the book industry, that, you know, it's all about engagement and getting likes and what people are saying on Twitter and this and that. And so I really liked it. It was really good. I don't know why, but I gave it 4.5 stars. I don't know why I couldn't quite give it a 5, but it was really good. Definitely worth the hype. Then after reading a really good book that really I was pleasantly surprised by, I read one that I didn't like so much. And I read this one for Summerween, which I did take part in. I just didn't vlog or anything like that, but I did take part in it. I don't have my information for Summerween, so I don't remember what prompt this was, but I read this book for Summerween, and it's The Disappearance at Devil's Rock by Paula Tremblay. Yeah, this was disappointing, especially because I have read a Paula Tremblay book that I loved. I read A Head Full of Ghosts, and that was a 5-star book. I absolutely loved it, and I just feel like nothing touches that one. This one, I think it had an interesting story. It's about a teenage boy who goes missing, and there's like some weird circumstances around his disappearance, and so it kind of dives into that. It gets a little bit kind of supernatural in a sense, and so it's basically, though, a missing person's book, right? And so it was an interesting story, but I didn't love the writing, and I don't remember if this happened in Head Full of Ghosts, but I hated in this book how when he would do dialogue, he would just put the person's name and then what they said. So it was kind of like reading a play, and I don't know why, but that irritated me. I was like, why does he do his dialogue like that? And then even though it was like an interesting story, it also felt like it's been done before. Like it wasn't anything special, so I gave it 2.5 stars. Then I read, also for Summerween, I read The Har by David Sodergren, and this is another one that I've heard so many people talk about, that they really loved this book, and so I was really excited about it. And it's about an old lady who lives in Scotland, and she lives in this like tiny little coastal town, and these developers are coming in, and they're trying to basically kick everybody out because they want to build a golf course, and she's not having it, our main character. And basically one day this fog comes in from the ocean, and with it comes something interesting, horrific, creepy, weird, you know. And then the story sort of goes from there. And I actually really liked this because it felt original, but it also felt like it gave a nod in a way to The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. There were elements of it that reminded me of that story, which I loved. And so there was also some really good horror scenes in this that were just over the top, gory, gross, crazy, but also really fun. But then it also was very sentimental and kind of tugged at the heartstrings a little. All right, I had to shift you over a little bit because I had like a weird line on my face. It's still kind of here. It's okay, we're gonna work with it. So anyway, so this book was pretty great, except the villains in this book were a little too like over the top. Like the author was trying too hard to make them villains when he didn't really need to. And it was just overdone, and so it came off as kind of unrealistic, I guess. So other than that though, solid horror novel, and I gave it 4 stars. All right, then also for Summerween, I had to read, one of the prompts was to read a novella, I think, and so I ended up reading this whole collection, but for Summerween I just read one of them for that week. But I read Full Dark No Stars by Stephen King. It's a collection of 4 novellas, and yeah, it's Stephen King. So these 4 though, I would say what they kind of had in common was like the horror, not the horrors, but just the really dark side of human beings and how humans can just do some really terrible things to each other. I think that was kind of the overarching theme of the whole thing. But yeah, overall there were 4 novellas in this. 1922, Big Driver, Fair Extension, and A Good Marriage. And my favorite one was Big Driver. I gave that one 5 stars. And that one was basically was a revenge story about a woman who is brutally raped and goes after her rapist. So the whole book, you're just like, everything she does, you're like, yes, yes, yes. I also did really like Fair Extension, though the way that one ended, I was like, wow, dude, this is some dark stuff. And I think it too had a Dark Tower connection, in a way. It was about a guy who is, he is dying from cancer, and he stumbles across this like roadside guy who basically offers him an extension on his life for a price. So yeah, all in all, it was a really good collection, especially because Stephen King sometimes love him and hate him, you know, but this one was pretty solid. I averaged it out. I gave 1922 3.5 stars, Big Driver 5 stars, Fair Extension 4.5 stars, and A Good Marriage 4 stars. So it averaged out to a 4-star book, which is pretty good, especially for Stephen King, because sometimes he sucks. Then finally, you guys, I don't know if you know this or if you've noticed, but I had a 5-star read way, way back in the beginning of 2025. My very first book of the year was a 5-star read, and I had not had one since. All the way to July, because we're into July now, I had not had another 5-star read. So I was getting pretty bummed out. But then I finally got one. I read Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond, and this is a nonfiction book about poverty in America. And he kind of talks about, because Matthew Desmond is a sociologist, and he's done a lot of research and like getting down into communities and stuff. He deals a lot with people that are poor, the poor. His book Evicted, I read a couple years ago. That was also a 5-star book. It was very eye-opening. And this one too touches on, he kind of tries to examine like, why is there so much poverty in America? And how do we fix it? How can we fix it? And so I don't have the book in front of me because I was too lazy to grab it, but I really marked that book up. There was lots of tabbing, there was lots of underlining, there was lots of statistics and things that just really didn't necessarily surprise me, but also made me really mad, which I figured it would. And basically his solution, or his, you know, ultimate finding was that if a lot of the poverty in America could be addressed, managed, maybe not completely eradicated, but like helped out if rich people just weren't so greedy, essentially. Greed is the main problem. So yeah, I loved this book. It was very informative, very well written. Yeah, I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. So those are all the books that I read in June and July. So I feel like it's been a pretty good summer. I'm kind of getting back into my reading groove a little bit, though I will say the book I'm reading right now I'm struggling a little bit. I'll tell you about it when I finish it, assuming I finish it, that I don't DNF it. I don't want to DNF it. So we'll see, I don't know. But yeah, so it's been a pretty good summer, but please let me know, how have you been? What have you been up to? What have you been reading? Please tell me, because I really do want to know. I love talking about books with you guys, and that's why I'm back, and I'm sorry that I left for a little bit there, and I hope I won't do it again. So yeah, I guess that's it. I will try to get back on my normal uploading schedule. I am about to start another 100 Epic Reads vlog. And this one I'm a little nervous about it. I have some apprehensions, but I'm gonna push through. So you can look for that. I don't know when that's gonna come. At this point, it's probably gonna be September, but we shall see. So yes, I hope you guys are well, and yeah, I will chat with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.